It's a quiet Sunday afternoon, the kind that could pass by unnoticed. The church bells are still echoing through the warm spring air, gradually fading like the final chords of a hymn you've heard 100 times. Sarah Williams, in her early 60s, steps down from St. Mark's Baptist Church, her shoes softly tapping on the stone steps. In one hand, she holds a slim leather Bible. In the other, a bouquet of white lilies tied with a pale blue ribbon. The Sunday crowd is dispersing, families hugging, children darting along the sidewalk, old friends laughing under the rustling magnolia trees. Everything feels calm, familiar, just another ordinary day. But Sarah is different. She's not rushing, not distracted. She's simply present, fully aware, moving with a quiet grace. She wears a soft blue dress that catches the sunlight gently, with a silver dove brooch pinned below her collarbone. Her gray hair is neatly pulled into a low bun, not a strand out of place. Today marks her wedding anniversary, a day she spends alone. For years she has come to church by herself, sat in the third pew, lit a candle during the last hymn, and walked 2 blocks home to prepare a dinner for 2. Even when her husband, James, is either working late or traveling. It's not just a routine, it's her way of staying grounded, holding on to the memories. As Sarah walks past the church's wrought iron gate and onto the sidewalk, a gentle breeze pulls at her dress, just enough for her to pause and smooth it down. The magnolias are in full bloom, their scent sweet with a hint of bitterness, like nostalgia or old regrets. Sparrows chatter above, as if they're marking the passage of time. She lets out a soft breath and keeps walking, lilies bobbing with her steps. Everything feels right, until it doesn't. She doesn't notice the police cruiser at first, parked across the street, angled to watch the whole block. But she feels it, that shift in the air, like static before a storm. No sirens, no shouts, just wait. Her eyes flick sideways, but she doesn't turn. She keeps her pace steady. Inside the cruiser, there's a white officer, late 30s maybe, short-cropped hair, no sunglasses, just sitting there, still as stone. And not the peaceful kind of still. It's the kind that feels like it's waiting for an excuse. Sarah's been here before. Parking lots, grocery stores, even a hospital waiting room. That same heavy stare. Her grip tightens on the lilies, not on purpose, just instinct. Her mind's already running a checklist. ID in her purse, phone charged, church gate locked. She doesn't panic. Panic doesn't help. She prepares. Her house is close now, a white cottage with green shutters and a flagstone path James laid down decades ago. She can picture the porch light flickering on as dusk settles, the wind chimes singing softly. That's where she's headed. That's her right. But with every step, the world feels smaller, like the sidewalk shrinking, or the trees are leaning in. Her mom's old warning echoes. They don't need a reason, baby, just the wrong moment and the right excuse. Sarah's spent her life proving that wrong. She's a community leader, mentors young girls, pushed for district reforms, sat on boards. She's followed every rule, carried respect like armor. But some days it doesn't matter. The world sees her skin before it sees her. At the end of the block, the cruiser door creaks open, then slams shut. Boots hit the pavement, not fast, but deliberate, like they want to be heard. Sarah doesn't turn. She lets the sound come to her, keeps walking, steady as ever. "Ma'am," a sharp local voice calls out. Sarah turns slowly, face calm, neither smiling nor defensive. "Yes, officer." He's close now, maybe 6 feet away, one hand near his belt, the other on his flashlight. His eyes scan her lilies, her Bible, her brooch. Young enough to have something to prove, old enough to think he doesn't. "Where are you headed?" he asks. "Home," Sarah says. 2 blocks up. Come from church? I did. Is something wrong? His eyes narrow slightly. You live around here? I've lived here longer than you've worn that badge, she says, not sharp, just matter of fact, like stating the time. But his shoulders stiffen, his jaw clicks, and Sarah knows this isn't about her lilies or her Bible. This is about something older, harder to name. The officer steps closer, his boots hitting the pavement harder than they need to, each thud like a warning wrapped in leather. Sarah stays still, not out of defiance, but because she knows moving too fast, even a twitch, could be twisted into resistance. Her eyes lock on his, steady, unshaken. He squints, lips tight, studying her like she's a puzzle he's already decided he doesn't like. No aggression in his stance yet, but Sarah's seen this dance before, the way a man's breath shifts right before his voice does. I need to see some ID, he says, flat, like it's just routine. But his tone's got an edge, like the words were loaded and ready. Sarah keeps her voice even. Have I broken any laws, officer? He doesn't answer right away. His gaze flicks to her lilies, her Bible, the silver chain at her throat. His jaw twitches. We had a report of a woman matching your description casing houses a few blocks over, he says, tossing it out like bait, fishing for a reaction. Sarah doesn't bite. I've just come from church. I live on Hawthorne Street. I'm heading home. His tone sharpens. That's fine, but I still need to verify. Sarah nods, not agreeing, just acknowledging. Do you ask every woman with flowers and a Bible to verify where she belongs? His eyes flash just for a second, like she'd crossed a line he didn't expect her to see. The breeze picks up, tugging her dress again. A strand of gray hair slips across her cheek, and she tucks it back, slow, deliberate, never breaking eye contact. What's your name? He asks, sharper now, almost demanding. Sarah Williams, she says, calm as ever. He pauses, her name hitting something in him, though he doesn't know why yet. That half-second pause is all Sarah needs. It slows him down, just a fraction. He steps closer, too close now, within arm's reach. She can smell his aftershave mixed with sweat. His presence feels heavier, like he's trying to crowd out her space. I need you to stop walking and show me ID now, he says, louder, insistent. Sarah doesn't flinch. I know my rights, officer. If you don't have reasonable suspicion, you have no grounds to detain me. His voice drops, cold and tight. You're refusing a lawful order. I'm refusing to be harassed, she says, still calm. There's a difference. The street goes quiet. The birds stop chirping. The hum of cars fades. Across the street, a couple slows, watching, unsure. A delivery van lingers at the stop sign, the driver glancing through his mirror. No one steps in, but they're all watching. The officer glances at the crowd, and instead of backing off, he leans in harder. Last warning, ma'am, show me your ID. Sarah's fingers tighten around the lilies, not from fear, but from something deeper, older. She spent her life fighting to keep her dignity intact, through looks, whispers, barriers that tried to erase her. She smiled when she wanted to scream, swallowed injustice like medicine. But not today. Then do what you feel you need to do, she says softly, her voice steady as stone. But know this, I know exactly who I am. Those words shift something in him. His posture stiffens, his eyes flicker. Then, without warning, he lunges. His hand grabs her arm, fingers digging in too hard. The lilies slip, hitting the sidewalk like a confession. Her Bible falls, landing open to a psalm about traps and enemies. He shoves her back, slamming her against the brick wall of a closed bookstore. Her shoulder scrapes the rough surface. His forearm presses her throat, not choking but controlling, threatening. Sarah gasps, not from pain, but from how fast it all turned. Her hands brace against his arm, not fighting, just holding steady. Her face tilts toward the sun, her necklace catching the light. She looks at him, right at him, even with the pressure on her windpipe. "You don't get to do this," she says, barely above a whisper. "You're resisting," he snaps. "I'm standing," she breathes. A cry cuts through from across the street. An older woman, voice sharp with outrage. "Get your hands off her!" A phone clicks. Someone shouts, "She's not doing anything!" The crowd's stirring now, but the officer doesn't budge. Sarah's breath comes short, uneven. Her knees shake, but she locks them, refusing to fall. The brick walls cold against her back, both anchor and cage. The lilies lie crushed at her feet, petals scattered. Her Bible's open, pages fluttering. Deep inside, something burns, slow, bright, stronger than fear. She's not crying, not pleading. She's waiting, because she knows he's not the only one watching. The street holds its breath, the silence so thick it feels like it's pressing on your chest. Sarah's still pinned against the brick wall, her face angled just enough to catch the crowd forming across the street, faces gathering like a storm about to break. Voices are starting to rise, some shouting, some muttering, but the officer, so close now, seems deaf to it all. His jaws tight, his grip on her collarbone screaming control, like he's already decided this isn't wrong. Sarah feels the cold brick digging into her spine, her breath catching in short bursts. Her vision blurs for a split second, not from pain, but from the weight of it all. Decades of navigating spaces where she had to smile first, explain herself faster, forgive quicker. She thinks of her students, those bright girls who asked if being good was ever enough. She'd said yes, but now, with her arms pinned and her voice ignored, she's not so sure. Then it comes, a sharp screech of tires biting pavement, slicing through the afternoon calm like a knife. The officer flinches just barely, but Sarah feels it, the slight ease of pressure on her throat. He turns, eyes narrowing toward the intersection. A black SUV has pulled up, wheels kissing the curb, engine cutting off fast. The crowd parts, phone still up, capturing every second. The door opens, and James Williams steps out. No dramatics, no slammed door, no raised voice. Just James, moving slow and deliberate, like he's walking into a courtroom. At 6 feet 3 inches, broad-shouldered, with a stare that stopped arguments mid-sentence, he doesn't need to announce himself. He sees it all. Sarah, breathless, pressed against the wall. The officer, hand still raised, caught between holding on and letting go. The crowd, teetering between fear and fury. "Step away from my wife," James says, his voice calm but sharp, like steel wrapped in velvet. The officer, Doyle, his name tag reads, stiffens, turning fully now, hands easing off Sarah's shoulder. His eyes dart between James and his own badge, like he's trying to piece together what just shifted. Sarah leans against the wall, one hand steadying herself, the other brushing where his arm had been. She's still, dignity intact, despite the last few minutes trying to strip it away. James steps closer, voice lower, firmer. "I said step away from my wife." The street freezes again, even the birds going quiet. Doyle backs up, one step, then another, face flushing red, breath short. Sarah watches, her resolve as steady as ever. She knew this could happen, not because she did anything wrong, but because sometimes they just remind you where they think you belong. But now, she's not alone. Doyle opens his mouth, maybe to explain, maybe to deflect, but James raises a hand, palm out, calm as a stop sign. "Don't," he says, soft but final. "You've done enough." The crowd's buzzing now, whispers, then louder voices. "That's her husband," someone says. "He's a judge, isn't he?" another asks. A kid with a phone mutters, "This is going viral." The air's thick like a storm's about to break. James turns to Sarah, voice dropping low, just for her. "You hurt?" She shakes her head, voice raspy but clear. Not enough to matter, but it could have been. James exhales, holding back a quiet rage. I got here as fast as I could. I know, Sarah says, her hand brushing his, a small anchor. He turns back to Doyle, who's standing off to the side now, looking smaller, like a man who miscalculated the room. I want your name, James says, your badge number, now. Doyle's voice wavers. This is a misunderstanding. No, James cuts in, still calm, but every word heavy. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This was a choice. You made it. Sarah straightens, watching, listening. She knows what James is about to do with the fire in his chest. He turns to her for a second, hand grazing hers. You okay? She nods. Don't hold back, she says quietly. Not today. James faces Doyle again. Do you know who you just put your hands on? Not for drama, but because it matters. This woman served this community longer than you've worn that badge. She's taught generations, mentored leaders, showed up when this city didn't deserve her. And you? He takes a slow breath. You assaulted her because you didn't like how she walked. The crowd's voices swell. Tell him, someone calls. It's on video, another shouts. A woman murmurs, always like this till someone's watching. James's voice sharpens, low and cutting. You didn't ask questions. You made assumptions. You didn't de-escalate. You escalated. For what? Her necklace? Her skin? A woman who didn't bow to you? The silence that follows is deafening. Across the street, a police sergeant steps into the scene, a black woman in her mid-40s, her badge catching the sun. She moves with calm authority, nodding to the crowd like she knows their names. Her eyes are steady, taking it all in. Everything all right here? She asks, her voice even, landing on Doyle like a spotlight. James steps aside, giving her space to read the moment. This officer, he says, pointing to Doyle without raising a finger, put his hands on my wife without provocation, slammed her against that wall, threatened her. You tell me, is that procedure? The sergeant's face stays neutral, but her eyes cool. Is that accurate, Officer Doyle? She asks, her tone like a tightrope. Doyle's voice shakes. She refused to comply. The sergeant raises an eyebrow. Did you see her commit a crime? James steps in, voice low but pulling the crowd tighter. Did you see her run? Threaten you? Resist? Or did you just not like that she wasn't scared of you? Sarah speaks now, her voice soft but cutting through. He didn't see me at all, just the version of me he wanted to believe. A ripple moves through the crowd, murmurs growing louder, phone still up, capturing every word. The sergeant glances at Sarah, then James, then the sea of screens. She nods slowly. We'll handle this, she says to James. I suggest you file a complaint. Now. We will, James says, his voice like iron. But let me be clear, this doesn't end with paperwork. Doyle stands rigid, hands clenched, face red, eyes darting like he's looking for a way out. But there's no escaping this. The crowd, the cameras, the truth laid bare. The power he leaned into with force and arrogance is slipping, choked out by witnesses and consequence. Sarah steps forward, brushing her dress smooth, wiping away the wrinkles of the insult. She gives James a single nod. Let's go, she says, voice still strong. I've got lilies to replace. They walk side by side, past the crowd, past the crushed bouquet and open Bible, past the man who thought power lived in his badge, not his integrity. People part for them, not out of fear, but respect, seeing Sarah for who she is, who she's always been. That evening, the air outside feels heavy, like the city's waiting for something. Sarah sits on their porch, the rocking chair creaking softly. Bruises are starting to show on her shoulder, tender but not loud. It's not the pain that lingers. It's how Doyle's eyes shifted when he realized who she was, like her worth only clicked when tied to a name he recognized. James hasn't said much, his silence full of strategy, not emptiness. He sits with elbows on knees, wedding band glinting in the fading light. Sarah feels his anger, controlled, simmering, not looking for revenge, but refusing to go quiet. "You still thinking about what to say?" Sarah asks, her voice soft but steady. James doesn't look up. "I'm thinking about how long I've stayed quiet, how many times I thought waiting was the right move." Sarah nods, hand resting on her chair. "And now?" He exhales, frustration and clarity mixing. "Now I'm wondering if every moment we waited just let them think they were right." Cicadas hum in the distance, blending with evening sounds, cars, a slamming screen door, a baby's cry. Sarah looks at the street where it all went down, where her back hit brick, where her dignity was tested. The footage is already online, shared, clipped, spreading. Her name's trending, but she hasn't watched it. She doesn't need to. Her body remembers every second. The phone inside keeps ringing. Colleagues, reporters, friends, even old rivals faking concern. James stopped answering. The messages pile up, but Sarah knows truth alone isn't enough. It has to be carried, protected, amplified. "I don't want this to fade," she says, voice firm. "I don't want it to be another headline gone by Monday." James meets her eyes for the first time that night. "It won't," he says. "Not if we hold it, not if we own it." They sit in silence, words settling like dust on a long road. Sarah stands, grabs her notebook from the hallway drawer, and comes back with a pen uncapped. She flips to a fresh page and starts writing. "What's that?" James asks, watching her pen move. "Names," Sarah says. "People I want in the room. Pastors, teachers, journalists who care about more than clicks. Elders who know what organizing feels like. I'm not waiting for permission, James. I'm planning." He smiles, small but real. Always 10 steps ahead. "You always made me walk alone to get there," she teases, just enough to cut the day's wait. James leans over, kisses her temple, lingering a moment. Not this time. As the sky gradually turned purple, the city seemed to feel different, not in the streets, but in the way people spoke, in the way strangers nodded, in the way stories spread through porches and dining tables. The name Sarah was everywhere, but she was not just a name. She was a mirror, reflecting the wounds and strength of everyone. People saw something in her, and that was changing the way they moved through this world. At the police station, things had begun to crack. Officer Doyle had been put on leave, pending review, but the whispers were loud. Some cops called him a scapegoat. Others said he deserved it. A few admitted he had crossed the line before. James knew this wasn't just about one person. It was about a culture, a silence that had left scars until it was captured on camera. That evening, Sarah sat at the dining table, taking notes under the light of a single lamp. James paced in the hallway, his phone pressed to his ear, his voice low but steady. He was calling the powerful, judges, civil rights lawyers, council members, those who knew that justice was not just a word, but a system that needed to be broken and rebuilt. Sarah listened half-heartedly, her pen never stopping, her heart calm. She thought about her students, now grown, watching everything unfold on their phones. She wondered if they could hear the same voice that had pushed them to rise above their own doubts. She hoped they did. "James," Sarah said, interrupting his call, "they want a statement by tomorrow." He looked up, his eyes tired but sharp. "Then we'll make a statement," she said, looking him directly in the eye. "Not to protect ourselves, but to talk about what comes next." He nodded, and something unspoken passed between them, Years of trust, shared battles, silent promises. Sarah smiled softly, always planning, always one step ahead. But this wasn't just her fight. This was for everyone who had ever been silenced, ignored, or pushed aside. The phone rang again, vibrating in the still house. James ignored it. Sarah closed her notebook, her fingers gliding over the cover as if it were something sacred. The words inside were not just a plan, they were an oath, a promise to those who had no voice, to the moments when the world wasn't listening. Her voice, even in silence, now echoed, and the world was beginning to hear it. Then Sarah stepped out onto the porch. The air was cool, the city quiet, as if waiting. She stood where it all began, her gaze fixed on the street where her dignity had been tested. She touched the porch railing, as if reclaiming what the afternoon had tried to take from her. The world had changed in an instant, and she was ready to carry it forward. She smiled, not because of the memory, but because of what was to come. The reckoning had begun, and it was no longer just hers. It was everyone's. The next morning, on the bustling courthouse steps, the crowd gathered as if waiting for something to explode. People stood in silent groups, some sitting on stone benches, holding cups of coffee. The air was filled with determination and the smell of fresh newsprint, as if something old was finally beginning to crack open to make way for something new. Sarah stood near the courthouse entrance, under the towering columns, dressed in a simple gray suit. The dove-shaped brooch on her lapel gleamed, her stance steady as always. She wasn't here to attract attention, but the weight around her still drew gazes. James stood beside her, his tie undone, his hand gently touching hers, a silent signal that they would face everything together, whatever happened. Reporters lined the walkway, microphones extended as if they were waiting for a confession. Their questions became noise, but Sarah didn't stop, not even glancing at the cameras. She walked into the courthouse as if it were her home, because dignity built over the years never bows. Inside, the courtroom was packed. Activists, pastors, city workers, students with notebooks, filling the rows of seats like a church service. The judge entered, the bailiff called for order, and the tension in the air was palpable. Officer Doyle sat across from them, his shoulders slumped, eyes fixed on the ground. His confidence from the previous day had vanished, the gray suit now stiff and ill-fitting, as though he were playing a role he no longer believed in. His lawyer whispered, but Doyle barely reacted, his lips tightly pressed. Sarah observed him, not with anger, but with a sharper sense, the awareness that he had underestimated her, thinking she was too small to crush without consequence. The trial moved swiftly, not because it was simple, but because the evidence spoke louder than anyone in the room. Videos played in silence, multiple angles showing Sarah being shoved against the wall, her voice cracking, the crowd chanting, James stepping in. The room was silent, filled only with the soft hum of the screens. Witnesses spoke up, those outside the crowd, even a fellow cop who had worked with Doyle. "We knew he had issues with power," the colleague said. "We just stopped caring." The words hit like a punch. When Sarah took the stand, the room fell silent, not just attentive, but full of respect. She spoke directly, as though she had walked this path silently 1,000 times and had finally chosen to be heard. "I wasn't attacked for what I did," she said. "I was attacked for what he saw when he looked at me. If that's not enough to bring us here today, then what is the point of a courtroom?" The verdict came quickly, guilty of assault, misconduct, civil rights violations. There were no cheers, no applause, just a heavy, necessary justice. Sarah closed her eyes, exhaled, not in victory, but in release. Doyle sat there, rigid, his jaw trembling, the weight of his choices now settling in where his certainty once stood. Outside, the crowd had grown larger, shadows stretching longer after each whispered conversation. Sarah steps to the podium outside the courthouse, cameras flashing, but her eyes stay locked on the crowd, real people, not just lenses. She's not here to soak up attention. She's here for the ones who showed up to witness. "This isn't just about what happened to me," she says, voice clear and steady. "It's about what happens to people who don't get cameras, who don't have someone show up in time. This is a promise. We won't stay silent anymore." The change doesn't hit like a wave. It unfolds slowly in the weeks that follow. James spearheads a review of every use of force complaint in the police department. A community oversight board takes shape, and Sarah's asked to chair its first meeting. Some officers quit quietly. Others stay and start listening. Body camera policies get rewritten, trainings overhauled, civilian reports go public. It's not perfect, but it's real progress. At the first town hall, Sarah stands under string lights on a school stage, surrounded by neighbors who used to whisper their fears in private. She holds that same worn notebook from the porch, filled with her plans, her vision. She reads off changes already in motion, then closes it. Looking out at the crowd, she asks, "What do you want your city to feel like when your kid walks down the street?" A woman in the back stands, voice shaky but firm. "Safe. I want it to feel safe again." Sarah nods. "Let's make sure it's not just a feeling. Let's make it law." The meeting stretches late, voices piling up, ideas taking root. Later, Sarah walks home, passing the brick wall where it all started. Someone's left fresh lilies there, wrapped in brown paper tied with a blue ribbon. She doesn't pick them up, just smiles, touches the stone with 2 fingers, and keeps walking. The reckoning's begun, and it belongs to everyone now. The story of Sarah is a powerful testament to the strength of dignity and the unwavering determination to stand against injustice. Through her journey, we see that true change doesn't come from shocks or explosive events, but from the persistent struggle to listen and speak out, not just for oneself, but for those without a voice. Sarah didn't just fight against an individual, she fought against a culture of silence that had created deep wounds in society. Change unfolded gradually, from small dialogues to large policy shifts. Justice is not something that comes naturally, but the result of a long process that requires courage and relentless effort.